Today we're going over lesson 1.5, negative exponents. Remember to complete your work on a separate sheet of paper and turn it in after you are completed. We are still focusing on the essential question, why is it helpful to write numbers in different ways? What we will learn today: to use negative exponents, and to multiply and divide powers using negative exponents. Key concept: zero and negative exponents. Any non-zero number to the zero power is 1. So any non-zero number to the zero power is 1. Doesn't matter what number it is. Any non-zero number to the negative n power is the multiplicative inverse of its nth power. So let's look at the non-zero number to the zero power first, or zero exponents. Any number that has a zero exponent will always be 1. Doesn't matter what number it is. So in this instance, 5 to the 0 power is 1. Now we have a negative exponent, 7 to the negative third power. And as you can see here, it's split up into 3 fractions, 1 to the 7th, 1 to the 7th, 1 to the 7th, or 1 over 7 to the third power. So you're basically taking a negative exponent, making that into a fraction. Your base becomes your denominator, and the negative exponent becomes positive, and it goes under your fraction sign. So in this case, 7 to the negative third power is 1 over 7 to the third power. Something to keep in mind with negative exponents. Remember that 6 to the negative third power is equal to 1 over 6 to the third power, not negative 216 or not negative 18. So let's look at an example with a negative exponent. So write 4 to the negative fourth power using a positive exponent. So automatically when I see a negative exponent, I'm going to write a fraction. So this is going to be 1 over 4. And my negative 4 becomes positive 4. Then I can solve for this. Obviously the 1 stays the same. This is going to be 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. Or 1 over 256. Now let's do the same thing here with variables. Write c to the negative 7 power using a positive exponent. Once again, the minute I see that negative exponent, my base becomes my denominator, and my exponent now becomes positive. So it's 1 over c to the 7th power. Nothing else I can do with this, so that's my final answer. For this next example, we're doing the reverse of what we did in the first 2 examples. So write 1 over f to the 5th power as an expression using a negative exponent. So we know that in our negative, or in our expression, using a negative exponent, my denominator is going to be my base of my power. So we're going to have f. The 5 is going to be my negative exponent. I'm going to change it into a negative exponent, and there's my answer. So just take the denominator, make that your base, and whatever is the exponent, make it negative, and you have an expression using a negative exponent. This next example, we are writing 1 over 9, or 1/9, as an expression using a negative exponent. So let's look at the number 9. In order to have a negative exponent, obviously we need a power, a base, and an exponent. So we need to think of what base and what exponent equals 9. Now I know that 3 squared, or 3 to the 2nd power, is equal to 9. So I'm going to use 3 squared. So let me rewrite my fraction, but this time using 3 squared, which is the same as 1/9, what we started with. But they want us to write it using a negative exponent. So now I'm going to take my base of 3, and my exponent is going to become negative. And so I have 3 to the negative 2 power. Now for a word problem. A grain of salt has a mass of 0.0001 or 1/10,000 of gram. Write this decimal as a power of 10. So in order to write this as a power of 10, what we're going to do, the easiest way to do this is to take our decimal and we're going to move it however many places it takes to get past the 1. Okay, so our power of 10, our base is going to be 10. And now let's count how many places we're moving over. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to be 10 to the negative 4th power. And it's negative because it's a decimal and we're moving it over. If we're moving to the left instead, then it would be positive. But because we're dealing with decimals and we're moving to the right, it's a negative exponent. So my final answer is 10 to the negative 4th power. We learned in lesson 1.4 multiplying and dividing exponents. We learned the product of powers and the quotient of power rules, and that can be used to multiply and divide powers with negative exponents. So what we're talking about here is when we took 3 squared times 3 to the 6th power. If you recall, we added the exponents and we got 3 to the 8th power. And when we divided, let's use 4 squared over 4 to the 1st, we subtracted 2 minus 1, subtracted the exponents, and we got 4 over 1, or just 4. So we can continue using the adding and the subtracting when we're dealing with negative exponents. In this example, we're being asked to simplify 4 to the negative 5th power times 4 to the negative 3rd power. So I notice we're multiplying. We're multiplying the same bases. And so when we multiply the same bases, we add the exponents. So let's take our base of 4, and we're going to take negative 5 plus negative 3. So negative 5 plus negative 3, remember your laws of adding negative numbers. You add them together. Negative 5 plus negative 3 becomes negative 8. And when we simplify using negative exponents, we do not want to leave a negative exponent. So let's continue simplifying this. And like we learned in the first couple examples of this lesson, I'm going to convert this into a fraction. 1 over, my denominator is going to be 4. My exponent for 4 is going to be 8. And that's my final answer. I can simplify 4 to the 8th further, but I'm going to leave it as 4 to the 8th. In this example, we're being asked to simplify c to the negative 5th power over c to the negative 7th power. Recall that fractions are division. And when we divide with the same base, we subtract our exponents. So subtract the exponents. So I'm going to take c, negative 5, minus, put the negative 7 in parentheses. When we're subtracting a negative, it becomes positive. So I'm going to change this to positive. So now I have negative 5 plus 7. Negative 5 plus 7 is positive 2. So this will be c to the 2nd power. Now because my power is already has a positive base, I'm not going to convert it into a fraction. So that's my final answer. The only time we convert into a fraction is when we have negative exponents. Something to remember.